Imagine yourself transported back through the mists of time to an era when ancient scribes penned words that would echo across millennia, words filled with visions of celestial beings, monstrous giants, and a world teetering on the brink of apocalyptic judgment. Today, I'm going to take you on an extraordinary journey into the heart of one of the most enigmatic and profound texts in religious history, the Book of Enoch, as preserved and revered within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. This isn't just a dusty old manuscript. It's a living testament to faith, mystery, and the human quest to understand the divine. We'll explore its origins, its tales of fallen angels and giants, its apocalyptic prophecies, and how it has shaped not only Ethiopian Christianity, but ripples throughout global religious thought. So settle in, because this story is vast, layered, and full of wonders that will challenge what you think you know about the Bible and beyond. Let's start by setting the scene for what the Book of Enoch truly is. You see, in the vast library of ancient religious writings, the Book of Enoch stands out like a hidden gem, one that's been cherished in Ethiopia while largely forgotten or dismissed elsewhere. It's not part of the standard Protestant or Catholic Bibles you might be familiar with, but in the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, it's considered sacred scripture, right alongside Genesis and Revelation. Why Ethiopia, you might ask? Well, that's a tale in itself, rooted in the deep historical ties between Judaism, early Christianity, and the African continent. The book is attributed to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, that mysterious figure from Genesis who walked with God and was taken up to heaven without dying. But in this text, Enoch becomes our guide through heavenly realms, revealing secrets that were supposedly hidden from ordinary mortals. To truly appreciate this, we need to dive into the historical context. Picture the world around 300 to 200 years before Christ, during what's known as the Second Temple period in Judaism. This was a time of turmoil for the Jewish people. The Babylonian exile had ended, but Greek influence under Alexander the Great and his successors was sweeping through the region, challenging traditional beliefs. It was in this ferment that apocalyptic literature began to flourish, writings that looked forward to a dramatic end of the age, with divine intervention to right all wrongs. The Book of Enoch is a prime example of this genre, composed in Aramaic, the language of everyday life in that era, though fragments have been found in Hebrew too. Scholars debate the exact dates, but most agree the earliest sections, like the Book of the Watchers, date to the 3rd century BCE, while later parts might extend into the 1st century BCE. Now, how did this book end up in Ethiopia? That's where the story gets fascinating. Ethiopia's connection to biblical traditions runs deep. According to legend, the Queen of Sheba visited King Solomon, and their union produced Menelik I, who supposedly brought the Ark of the Covenant to Ethiopia. Whether that's historical or not, we know Judaism influenced the region early on, with communities of Jews settling there perhaps as far back as the time of the exile. Then, in the 4th century CE, Christianity arrived when King Ezana of Aksum converted, making Ethiopia one of the first Christian kingdoms. The Ethiopian Church adopted a broader canon of scriptures, including texts like Enoch that were circulating in early Christian circles but later excluded by Western churches during councils like those in the late 4th century. Let me paint a picture of that early Christian world for you. In the first few centuries after Christ, the Book of Enoch was widely read and quoted. Church fathers like Tertullian and Origen referenced it, and even the New Testament seems to echo its ideas. Think of Jude verse 14, which directly quotes Enoch, "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones." But as Christianity formalized its canon, Enoch fell out of favor in the West, perhaps because its vivid depictions of angels and demons seemed too fantastical, or because it challenged emerging doctrines. In Ethiopia, though, Isolated from some of those debates due to geography and the rise of Islam cutting off direct ties, the book remained integral. It was translated into Ge'ez, the ancient liturgical language of the Ethiopian Church, and manuscripts from the 15th century onward preserved it faithfully. Speaking of manuscripts, the rediscovery of Enoch in the modern world is a detective story worthy of its own chapter. For centuries, Western scholars knew of Enoch only through fragments and quotes. Then, in the 18th century, Scottish explorer James Bruce travelled to Ethiopia and brought back 3 Ge'ez manuscripts of the book in 1773. Imagine his excitement as he unveiled this lost text to Europe. It was translated into English by Richard Laurence in 1821, sparking a wave of interest. Later, the Dead Sea Scrolls discovered in 1947 included Aramaic fragments of Enoch, confirming its ancient Jewish origins and dating parts to before the time of Jesus. These scrolls, hidden in caves near Qumran, showed that Enoch was part of the Essene Community's library, the same group possibly linked to John the Baptist. But enough about the book's history. Let's delve into its content, starting with the giants. Those colossal beings that capture the imagination like nothing else. The Book of Enoch divides into 5 main sections, but the most gripping is the first, the Book of the Watchers. Here, Enoch recounts how 200 angels, known as the Watchers, led by figures like Shemihazah and Azazel, descended from heaven to Mount Hermon. Why? They lusted after human women, defying God's order to merely watch over humanity. And they took wives for themselves, the text says. And each chose for himself one, and they began to go into them and were promiscuous with them. From these unions came the Nephilim, the giants, towering hybrids who devoured everything in sight, turning the earth into a place of violence and chaos. Picture this scene. These angelic beings, radiant and powerful, stepping down from the starry heights. They're not the fluffy winged cherubs of later art. They're awe-inspiring, almost terrifying in their majesty. The text describes them teaching forbidden knowledge to humans. Azazel taught metalworking for weapons and jewelry. Others revealed sorcery, astrology, and cosmetics. This wasn't benevolent education. It corrupted humanity, leading to war, idolatry, and moral decay. The giants, meanwhile, grew to enormous sizes. Some interpretations say 300 cubits tall. That's over 400 feet. They consumed crops, animals, and eventually turned to eating humans. They began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood, Enoch writes. It's a horrifying vision of a world gone mad, where the boundaries between heaven and earth, divine and mortal, have shattered. This story echoes Genesis 6, where sons of God mate with daughters of men to produce giants, leading to the flood. But Enoch expands it dramatically, explaining the origins of evil spirits. When the giants die in the deluge, their spirits become demons roaming the earth. Think about that. Every haunting, every possession in folklore might trace back to these restless souls. Scholars see this as an etiology, an ancient explanation for why the world is filled with suffering and supernatural woes. Compared to other mythologies, it's reminiscent of Greek titans or Norse frost giants, colossal beings born of divine human unions who bring destruction. Now, let's explore the role of Enoch himself in this narrative. He's not just a passive observer, he's the hero, a righteous man chosen by God to intercede. In the book, angels like Uriel and Michael take Enoch on tours of heaven and hell, showing him the fates of the wicked and the righteous. Imagine soaring through the cosmos with Enoch, past the 7 heavens, witnessing the storehouses of snow, hail, and winds. He sees the tree of life, the throne of God, surrounded by cherubim and seraphim, their voices thundering praises. But there are darker visions too, the prison for the fallen angels, a fiery abyss where they're bound until Judgment Day. Enoch pleads for them, but God refuses, decreeing their eternal punishment. This ascension motif is profound. Enoch, the seventh from Adam, symbolizes perfect wisdom, 7 being a sacred number. His transformation into Metatron in later Jewish mysticism, a high angel, shows how this text influenced Kabbalah and esoteric traditions. In Ethiopian Orthodoxy, Enoch's story reinforces themes of divine justice and the importance of righteousness. Priests and monks study it deeply, seeing it as a bridge between Old Testament patriarchs and Christian salvation. Moving deeper, let's talk about the apocalyptic elements, which form the book's core. Apocalypse means unveiling, and Enoch unveils the end times with stunning detail. In the Book of Parables, also called the Similitudes, we meet the Son of Man, a messianic figure who judges the world. Before the sun and the signs were created, before the stars of heaven were made, his name was named before the Lord of Spirits, it proclaims. This Son of Man sits on a throne of glory, executing judgment on kings and the mighty who oppressed the righteous. Sound familiar? It's strikingly similar to Jesus' self-description in the Gospels, leading some to argue Enoch influenced early Christology. The apocalypses include visions of cosmic upheaval, stars falling, mountains melting, the earth shaking. In the animal apocalypse, part of the dream visions, history is allegorized through animals, sheep for Israel, wolves for enemies like Babylon. It recounts from Adam to the Maccabees, then foretells a final battle where God establishes a new Jerusalem. This wasn't just fantasy. It gave hope to oppressed Jews under foreign rule, promising divine reversal. In Ethiopian context, these themes resonate powerfully. During the Zagwe and Solomonic dynasties, rulers claimed descent from Solomon, using Enoch's visions to legitimize their divine right. The book's emphasis on angels influenced Ethiopian art. Think of vibrant icons with winged beings and apocalyptic scenes. Economically, the church's monasteries preserved manuscripts, fostering literacy and scholarship in a region where trade routes connected Africa, Arabia, and India. But let's not gloss over controversies. Some critics argue Enoch promotes a dualistic worldview, with good and evil angels battling, akin to Zoroastrianism, influence from Persian rule. Others debate its canonicity. Why include it when it's pseudepigraphal, falsely attributed to Enoch? In modern times, it's fueled fringe theories like ancient aliens. Were the Watchers extraterrestrials teaching technology? Erich von Däniken popularized this in Chariots of the Gods. But scholars dismiss it, seeing it as mythological symbolism. Expanding on that, consider the cultural impact globally. Enoch inspired Milton's Paradise Lost, with its fallen angels, and even modern fiction like Neil Gaiman's works. In Africa, it underscores Ethiopia's unique Christian heritage, resisting colonial narratives that Africa lacked ancient texts. Politically, during Haile Selassie's reign, Rastafarians drew on Enoch, seeing Selassie as the Lion of Judah from Apocalyptic Prophecies. Let's linger on the giants a bit more, because they're so captivating. In Enoch, the Nephilim aren't just big. They're agents of chaos, teaching humanity to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. This ties into technological aspects. The book critiques unchecked progress, warning that knowledge without wisdom leads to destruction, compared to Prometheus in Greek myth, stealing fire and suffering punishment. Economically, the giant's rampage disrupts agriculture and society, mirroring real ancient famines or invasions. Side tangent, think about Azazel, the scapegoat angel. In Leviticus, sins are placed on a goat sent to Azazel in the wilderness. Enoch expands this. Azazel is bound in Dudael, a desert pit, awaiting fire. This influenced Yom Kippur rituals and even modern horror, like the Azazel Demon in films. Now, the astronomical book, Enoch learns celestial secrets from Uriel. It describes a 364-day solar calendar, contrasting the lunar one, which caused calendar disputes in ancient Judaism. The Qumran community followed this, leading to isolation. In Ethiopia, the church uses a similar calendar with unique holidays. The Epistle of Enoch warns of woes on the wicked, promising blessings for the righteous. It critiques false teachers, echoing New Testament epistles. Quotes like, "Woe to you who alter the words of truth," resonate today amid misinformation. To fill this out, let's explore biographies of key figures. Enoch himself. Genesis says he lived 365 years, symbolic of a solar year. His name means initiated or dedicated. In Pseudepigrapha, he's a scribe of righteousness, recording heavenly books. Shemihaza, leader of watchers. His name means my name has seen, perhaps alluding to divine vision. Bound with others, their cry reaches heaven, but no mercy. In Ethiopian history, Abuna Takla Haymanot, a 13th century saint, promoted Enoch's teachings in monasteries. These centers were economic hubs, producing illuminated manuscripts with gold leaf and vivid inks traded along the Red Sea. Politically, during the 16th century Ottoman threats, Enoch's apocalypses inspired resistance, seeing invaders as end-time foes. Globally, Enoch influenced the Renaissance. John Dee, Elizabeth I's astrologer, sought angelic knowledge like the Watchers. In the Enlightenment, it sparked debates on biblical authenticity, modern interpretations. Feminists critique the blaming of women for the fall, as the women's beauty tempts angels. Ecologists see the giant's consumption as a warning against environmental destruction. In pop culture, games like Assassin's Creed draw on Enochian lore, and books like the Fallen series retell the giant stories. Let's recount a sub-story, Enoch's dream of the flood. He sees the earth swallowed by waters, only Noah's family saved. This prefigures Christian baptism and renewal. Another, the valleys of judgment, where souls await resurrection, righteous in light, wicked in darkness. This shaped medieval ideas of purgatory. Causes and effects. The Watcher's descent causes moral decay, affecting the flood. Post-flood, Enoch promises no second deluge, but fire for the wicked. Lesser-known facts. Enoch mentions Uriel as sun's guardian, influencing angelology. The book has 108 chapters, a sacred number in some traditions. Historiography. Early scholars like Scaliger debated its authenticity. Today, experts like George Nicholsberg provide critical additions. Comparisons to Revelation both have beasts, seals, thrones, but Enoch is more cosmic, less Christ-centered. In Ethiopia, during the 1974 revolution, the church clung to Enoch for hope amid turmoil. Future implications. In an age of AI and genetic engineering, Enoch's warnings about forbidden knowledge feel prescient. Will we create our own giants through technology? As we wrap this epic tale, reflect with me. The Book of Enoch isn't just ancient words. It's a mirror to our souls, asking if we're watchers or wanderers, builders or destroyers. In the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, it reminds us that heaven's secrets are for the humble, and apocalypse isn't end, but transformation. What lessons do you take? Perhaps, like Enoch, to walk faithfully, eyes on the divine. Thank you for joining this journey. May it inspire you to explore these mysteries further.